My name is Augustine Colebrooks. I'm the principal at Midwifery Wisdom Collective. My focus is on big picture political movements that are happening within the profession, some of the controversial questions, and centering voices that are not being regularly heard.
I'm Layla Wyatt. I am a traveling student midwife, learning midwifery from cultures and a lineage of midwifery throughout the United States. I'm here to center the voices of students to hear their calling, their pathway, why they chose midwifery, and even share a bunch of birth stories along the way.
Greetings, I'm Jamara Amani. I am a midwife, a mom, and a social justice activist. I am here to challenge white supremacy, homophobia, transphobia, and anything that keeps people from being their best and living their best selves, as we have the human right to do. And I am looking forward to sharing stories of birth justice on this podcast.
Hi there, I'm Delmar Bowden. I am non-binary, queer, transgender, Latinx, midwife, and full-spectrum doula. My focus is on increasing access and equity in midwifery care and midwifery education.
Hello, my name is Angie Love. I am a community nurse midwife in Vero Beach, Florida at the practice of Midwife Love. I also do telehealth midwifery through Midwife RX. I'm a mama, and I am committed to maintaining birth choices for all people and educating a future generation of midwives because we will not die out.
So welcome to the Midwifery Wisdom Podcast. I'm so excited. I have one of my besties on the line tonight. And welcome, Wantina.
Hello, I'm Wantina Brooks-Roach. I'm a midwife in Northern Kentucky in the USA. And Augustine and I met, that's probably been coming up 4 years ago now, maybe 5. I can't even remember. And I have thoroughly enjoyed getting to learn together with you and everybody else that you sent my way. It's been
pretty
a
awesome. Ride. What you're doing in the world is pretty awesome. So we're both in a rainstorm, which might be why we're talking kind of loud. And
sorry,
we're 10,000 miles apart.
We are.
I just love that. I love technology. And you're at a birth, which makes perfect sense since you're the busiest midwife in the nation. We tried to find a busier one. Do you know anyone who competes with your numbers?
There are a few. There's not many, but there are a few. Fortunately, most of them have a whole team that is working with them as well. So most people that stay as busy as I do have 4 to 6 midwives working in a group practice, and so that everybody gets solid space. This area does not have as many midwives. We have some midwives in Cincinnati, which is across the river in a different state, a few midwives in Indiana, which is also across the river in a different state. And
but these aren't your midwives on your team. They're just colleagues.
I train most of them. They're good friends. They're good backup. And they've helped out for years with anything that I've needed because they know that if they call, I drop everything and go help. That's what sisterhood of midwifery is when another midwife calls, you drop everything and go because that's really important. So,
I just love this. You're talking about something that's near and dear to my heart, which is creating actual community, a trusting, tight-knit community of providers that actually rely on each other. And honestly, this is so freaking rare in the nation. So Wantina, you're a huge part of that. I mean, you are, I think, the most experienced midwife in your region. And you've done a huge amount of bridge building and connecting between these team members. I mean, a lot of them are your students, so they obviously inherited some of your skill and your knowledge.
Everybody had similar training, so that everybody knows that everybody does things very similar. Yes, there's differences. Yes, there's nuances. Yes, it changes from client to client, but it does help this region that everybody's had very similar training. Like, everybody's been to the breech training, everybody's been to the best training, everybody's been doing resuscitation with the same people. You know, we've had the same standard of care established as they all became CPMs, and that's made a big difference.
So how did you do that? How did you build this? I mean, obviously, there's a lot of regions where midwives have the same training. Like, what did you do? What did you do that's so unique?
Well, I don't know that I did anything as much as I provided space and held space and provided that I was a trustworthy person. Because so many preceptors are not, and that is a major problem, where preceptors have been abusive, have not taken care of their students well, they haven't raised their students up to be kind and compassionate to other midwives. It's in this catty cat world, and midwives are some of the strongest women I know. But when you have a room full of strong women who think outside the box, sometimes it's like herding cats. So
Yeah.
One of my favorite preceptors, Mary Ann Griffin from Indiana, she would always wear this favorite T-shirt to midwife meetings, and it was called Official Cat Herder on her shirt. And we always laughed about it, but it was true. To be able to keep everybody informed. And Jane Dawkins, my other preceptor, taught me to always bring chocolate to every midwife meeting. And everybody who knows me knows that chocolate fixes everything. So I always bring chocolate.
It also keeps the dementors away, right?
Right. But also, I really do think it's the fact that I had enough students working together that they learned how to work together and learned how to create that sisterhood, learned what it was like to be on call together, and to be able to answer those questions together. And I have such a variety of students and clients coming and going through my practice that it's always an adventure, because we never know who's going to be showing up next or what's going to happen. So I made this very deliberate plan about 8, maybe 10 years ago, that my plan was in 10 years, I would have enough of a practice to have students come and go, to be able to bring on another midwife that is also a preceptor, and to be able to have more than one CPM, and then within the next 5 years after that, to be able to have a good co-op of midwives working together. And as of this year, that's actually happening. It did take that long. It's not something you can just go, I'm going to have a co-op and expect to have it in 6 months. Yeah, that's not how any of that works. You have to have the clientele to support it. You have to have the fees to support it. You have to have the students knowing that you're a safe place to come and work at, to be able to support it without taking advantage of anything. Because that's the fine line too.
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, I know for a fact, I mean, I used to work in a busy practice. I had a lot of students in my practice, and I know for a fact that student labor is a part of the business model.
It can be.
So explain to me, like, what you balance, or like what is off limits for a student to do for free? How do you keep that balance?
No, they don't do free work. They just don't. It's not okay for me to ever ask anything of students to do anything for me personally in my personal life. It is not okay for them to be doing my laundry or washing my car. That's abusive. Yeah. No.
And it's happening all over the country. So this is very important that we define this. So some of the things that are totally off limits are anything that personally serves or betters your life personally. Correct. Anything that's not a part of clinical practice, right?
If they can't get a signature for it, then why are they doing it?
There we go. Why? I agree. My thought has always been that too. If they can't either get a signature for it or use it in their future practice, like you don't get a signature for learning how to run a front desk, but that's actually an important part of a practice.
Yep.
I agree. If it didn't better their career, then it wasn't worth it. That was that it wasn't their job. It wasn't acceptable.
Right.
And I'm so happy to hear this is true for you too. How else do you keep the balance? Are there times when you ever do pay your students?
Yes, they do get paid when they reach phase 3. So way I've got things structured right this minute is that I have several students who travel in for 1 or 2 weeks at a time, sometimes a month at a time, and then they go home and are completely off call while somebody else is coming on call. So I have about 10 to 15 students this year, which is amazing and wonderful that everybody gets to do some training. And then I stack a phase 3 student with a phase 2 or a phase 1 so that 2 people are at each birth so that they can still get their signatures, but they're not doing the same thing. You know, I can't have 2 phase 3s catching a baby and get a signature. That's not ever going to happen ever. And it doesn't work that way. but somebody can learn the different roles and can learn how to work together. So if I have a student who's in phase 3 and another student who's in phase 2 and another student who's just coming in phase 3, I can have all 3 of them and make it work easily, and all 3 of them will get a signature for the same birth, and we don't have to do one birth at a time, which then
love that
to get them up to phase 3 where they're able to be acting as a supervised midwife under supervision. Nobody does any work without me in the room. I take that very seriously. Even if I can't be at that birth, I'm going to call in another midwife who is a preceptor who is able to do that work. My only catch is if they're a MEEC school, then I have to make sure that those preceptors in the area are also MEEC school certified for that student. So there's a little bit more paperwork, a few more things I got to jump through for MEEC schools. I'm okay doing that. It's fine.
Yeah, I love that.
Let's get these midwives trained. I also, for the ones who travel, I provide an apartment for them so that all they have to do is take care of feeding themselves, because there's so much involved in becoming a midwife. There's so much stress in going to a new area that you don't know whether it's going to work out or not. There is no reason to make somebody pay extra expense or go through credit checks and all the stress of trying to find a place to be, or an Airbnb that's super expensive, when my practice can just cover that.
And it's a small, contribution, but it makes a huge difference. Huge difference.
Huge difference.
Well,
so I try to make sure that they are well supported as much as
amazing,
so that they have the less stress. And when they're off call, they're off call.
Yeah, that's amazing. Call. And you provide all the equipment that they need, so nobody's having to buy anything.
Nobody has to buy anything. Now, if they want to, if they're crowdfunded and they've been able to bring their own equipment and they want to try out their stuff, go right ahead. Now, I have one student right now that she's like, I think I have everything for a birth. I think I can do it. I'm like, great. Next birth, I'm going to put my stuff at the front door. But you get to do all your stuff, and you bring it all in, and you sit up, and let's check. Let's check for any holes. Because if there's a hole, my stuff's right there. But I'm really excited that she's at a spot where she's like, I got it. I got my stuff. That's really
amazing.
For her to
that must mean she's probably ready to graduate pretty soon. That's amazing.
She's only got 2 births left.
But
I love that. It takes a community to support a midwife, and I'm telling you, if you are around a student midwife, please give her some money. Please give her Amazon cards. Please give her money, because equipment is not cheap. Books are not cheap. Training is not cheap. Please give these student midwives money. I heard that.
That was very loud thunder. So, Wantina, this is part of what we're here to chat about, is that people are struggling. The system is broken. This whole each one teach one midwifery pathway is also fairly broken, in that it's a very slow, long process that oftentimes involves preceptor abuse, hazing, neglect, gaslighting, and then eventual dismissal or use as a free labor, or then dismissal before the papers are signed. I can't tell you how many phone calls I've gotten from students. It's criminal, really. It's really horrible. So we have to change this. I wrote a thesis in my master's degree about the way that we could create a residency program, a postgraduate residency program, to help create a more standard of care around the nation, because, as you know, people have varying levels of education, varying levels of preceptorship, and we aren't churning out equally competent folks. And also, you are doing deep work in your community about creating a safe environment. So obviously, this could be a huge conversation, and it's going to be one when you come and speak in Galveston, Texas. But tell me a little bit, just overview for me, what is safe midwifery preceptorship, and how do you create that?
I think you have to make a choice too. I think you can't just happen into it. I don't think you can just decide one day, oh, I'm going to be a safe preceptor, and assume that what you're doing is safe. I don't think any preceptor can ever just assume that what they're doing is safe for everybody. I think you have to actually stop and talk to the students. I think you have to stop and listen, and actively listen. Don't listen getting ready to answer, but listen to what they have to say. Good clear communication, making a choice to clearly communicate between everybody has saved preceptorships and student relationships with preceptors so many times when there's not good communication. I absolutely see preceptors assume things that aren't necessarily true, or students assume things that are definitely not true, and then hurt feelings happen, and everybody's just been out of shape, and it's not salvageable. It's really hard to enter a client space that is supposed to be held safe and sacred when you have worries and angst and anxiety and worries about whether you're doing the right thing, and is the midwife going to get mad at you, is she going to take you out to the car and yell at you, or in front of the client and yell at you. I think it really has to be a deliberate choice by the preceptor to investigate and ask those questions about what is it that makes this safe. How can you be safe? And ask deliberately of each person who interviews you, asking to be a student. What is it specifically that helps you feel safe? Because that's what defines it more than anything else. But seriously, don't yell at your students. Don't cuss your students out. Don't throw things at your student. Don't refuse signatures. Don't do that stuff. Just don't do it. Be nice. It is not that hard. We tell our children every single day, be nice humans. Be nice humans. Hello, midwifery. Be nice midwives. Figure out how to communicate. Cooperate. Don't make it things harder than they are.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would say, like, also maybe don't take students if you don't have these skills yet.
Yeah, no, not everybody should be teaching, please. If you don't feel like you're called to teach, please do not. But find out who is. Find out who's in the area that, like, bring them. I love students. No, not everybody is a teacher, and please recognize your place in the world. If you are an amazing breech person, please be the breech queen of all the things. If you're a twin person, be the tween queen of all the things. If you're a student person, be the student person. But if you can't, if having a student stresses you out, please recognize that this is not for everybody.
Yeah, and just hire an assistant.
Okay.
You know,
it's okay.
Hire an assistant.
There are
don't teach students.
Yeah,
so many.
I have 4, and I'm getting ready to hire 2 more. 4 assistants that they just are on call for a week. Man, they love going to births. They get so excited to go help at a birth.
They clean up and they pack up and they chart, and they're just there to actually support the mission.
Love birth assistants.
Yeah, exactly.
Even with students, I still want a birth assistant there, because the students need to be focused on being a student.
That's right. They're directly studying you. They're not doing cleanup, right? That's what we paid the birth assistant for. Mm-hmm.
Right. Yes.
I mean, everyone pitches in.
Pitch in and take down
the
tub just as fast as anybody else. I'm never going to ask anybody to do something that I'm not willing to do. That's part of being a nice human.
Yes. But there's lots of jobs at a birth, and they don't all need to be filled by the senior midwife or by the students. So figuring out a way to have the people there that do the jobs without stressing everyone out. Birth assistants is a huge part of that. And there are, nurses that really want to be birth assistants. There are doulas who want to be birth assistants. There are student midwives who are taking a break from student world. There are newly graduated midwives that would love to sit and observe and watch some more. And then there are just folks in your community that you can train.
Midwives that just want to just come and hang out, and it's okay for them to just come and hang out and have some mentoring time, because just because you graduate from NARM paperwork does not mean
you're ready.
You are done and you're not ready. I mean,
that's right.
You need a bit. So the local students, they get to spend an extra 2 years in my practice being mentored directly, because they're right here. So they get extra space and time, and I think that's something that's valuable, that just because you get your CPM doesn't mean that you're done. But it absolutely does mean that you're ready for a different level of mentorship. Not necessarily apprenticeship, it's not necessarily studenthood, but it is a different level of mentorship that is definitely important.
That's what I wrote my residency. No, there's not. And people are desperate for it. I mean, I get calls all the time, and I wrote a whole 146-page thesis on how to do this. Wantina is at a birth, of course, because she does how many births a year?
Between 150 to 200. Right now, I have 180 people in care.
Let that sink in. 180 people in care, and she is a solo midwife with some birth assistants, a bunch of students, and some visiting midwives.
I just hired another midwife. Her name's Tabitha, and she lives a half an hour south of me, and she's actually doing visits at the office today while I'm at this birth.
Fantastic. But I just want everyone to imagine 180 patients in care. You know, some midwives would balk at 80 patients in care, and 180 patients is an obscene number. I just want to let that sink in. That is an average of 12 births a month. I mean, 15 births a month.
At least.
It's a lot.
It's a slow month when we only have 6 to 8.
And you don't have a birth center. You are doing all of these
birth center so bad.
I know.
The Kentucky law does not allow for birth centers here. So we do some hotel births, and people do births at people's houses here in Florence area to try to be closer to the hospital, because we only have one hospital too. You know, we have to drive an hour and a half to get to another hospital. So I'm already in the one hospital town. Kentucky definitely has a maternity crisis in healthcare, because there's not enough hospitals who actually deliver babies. There's not enough midwives yet. We're working on it. We got licensing 2 years ago. We're up to 32 midwives who are licensed through Kentucky right now. So we're drastically changing things. It's happening. We've got, I think the last count we had was there's 15 students who are students in Kentucky who will be graduating within the next year. Midwifery is changing in Kentucky rapidly, and I'm so excited.
Largely because of you. That's amazing. Well, for anyone who's listening, the work of onboarding and orienting a new patient is tremendous. And you multiply that times the numbers that you're seeing, and it boggles the mind how much you're able to accomplish. Part of the reason you're able to accomplish this is because of your neurodiversity, right?
Well, I do think outside of the box,
That's right.
Like everybody else.
You don't do things like everybody else. That's right. And this is what I love. So you've chosen this as your topic at the Galveston conference. And could you give a little overview of what you're going to talk about and really why it matters so much?
Well, I think it matters because it matters in the first place, but also I think that I'm really mostly speaking to the relationship of preceptors and students, and also the neurodiversity that exists inside of midwifery. Because when you already are meeting the needs of a specific clientele who don't want the normal, it leads people to be searching for somebody who also doesn't look at things normally, which is midwives. There's not very many OBs who are in the world of home birth, but there are definitely lots of midwives who are in the world of home birth who think outside the box. And I think that many, many times the breakdown of communication that is happening between preceptors and students is often because midwives are untrained and unrecognizing what ADHD looks like. They don't know what the different learning styles are like. Some students really need to learn with their hands on. Some students need to learn to listen with their ears. They have an auditory processing disorder and they can't hear what you're saying, and they need to be able to read it and to be able to touch it and be able to find out. And I don't think midwives are prepared for teaching students at all through all these different styles of learning and all the different neurodiversity spectrum stuff. And there's also this element of judgment that is in people's eyes about whether it's okay to be a midwife and think outside the box. Is it okay to recognize that you have something on the spectrum, whether you know what it is or not, whether you're medicated or not? There's this judgment, and I'm not okay with that. And it's okay to be that person who thinks outside the box and to recognize what's normal and to recognize how to meet somebody's needs. If we work so hard to meet clients' needs, why aren't we working so hard to meet our students' needs? And so I'm just hoping to bring awareness of what some of that looks like, awareness of some of the ways to solve those issues, awareness to maybe bring it to your attention that maybe you have a neurodiversity that you hadn't realized. Because some people especially those of us who are females or identify as females, we are such great people pleasers that we can skate through life and morph and change and make things work at our detriment. But we don't realize that we're doing it the hard way. And if we had the support that we need, we actually could do it easier. But if you don't know, you don't know. And so I just want to bring that awareness that maybe the reason why it's so freaking hard to do the work that you're doing is because you're actually looking at the world differently. And here's some tips, and here's some tricks, and here's some things that I found that worked really well for communicating it. Hire help.
Yes.
You know that better than anybody else. You and I cannot do all the crazy things that we do without our full team help. It takes teams. It takes a partner midwife. It takes a full staff. It takes birth assistants. It takes an office assistant, because we can't do it all and keep it all straight unless we're really just sheerly full of magic. I think midwives are pretty magical, but it's hard to get that kind of magic.
Yeah, we have a really interesting course if you're just starting a business. It's called How to Start a Midwifery Business Right, or How to Start a Birth Business Right. And it has a lot of details. And one of the things we talk about so much is hiring ancillary professionals. So you need to have a bookkeeper, and you need to have someone who's a cleaner, and you need to have a biller, and you need to offload the things off your schedule that really you're not an expert in. Exactly.
Whatever it is you hate, pay somebody else to do it.
Exactly. That is absolutely, it's an exercise called Strengths and Weaknesses. And I absolutely feel that way. Like, we need to have more things that make us feel strong. That's a strength. And things that make you feel weak is a weakness. And there is absolutely no reason to do things that make you feel weak. I mean, it's craziness to do that. It's actually like a form of self-torture. So when you look at your to-do list, the things that you hate, like you said, delegate, outsource. Absolutely.
I will say it's really hard to delegate. I see my students.
That's a whole nother skill.
They're all side-eyeing me going, practice what you preach. It's really definitely, I'm so used to doing it. I mean, I've been doing this for 30 years by myself. And it's a big mind shift this year to go, I don't have to do that. I have another.
And you can't. You really can't with those numbers. You can't do it all. You can't do it all. So do you miss births? Do you miss births ever?
No, I have not. No, I do not miss births hardly at all, unless the parents didn't call me soon enough. That's on them. That does happen. I would say probably the not calling soon enough happens once or twice a year. Last year I did 210 births, and I only called another midwife to come help me twice because there was 2 people at once. And I really could have done both births had I had a solid team at each birth, and I just ran back and forth because they had babies far enough apart. I probably could have, but I didn't have enough midwives at that point.
Wow.
Keep it to CPMs, helping CPMs versus calling in a nurse midwife or somebody else.
Wow. That's so epic. Well, so you're in Kentucky, and you have a new team coming together, and you're taking care of all these mamas. I'm going to ask you what I ask a lot of midwives, which is, how do you take care of yourself?
Garden. I like being outside in the garden. My husband and I like to remodel houses together. We totally take out any frustration we have on tearing down walls and throwing stuff together. Yesterday was, a day off. Nobody had a baby yesterday, and we were in the garage all day building a new sink vanity. Like, a little bit of that is avoidance of doing what I should have been doing. I really should have been doing some paperwork, but we totally chose to not do paperwork and go do something fun in the garage instead. Those things.
Fun in the garage. Those don't go together for me. So,
but my husband's there. So.
Okay. There you go. That makes sense.
No, he's fun to work with. And then I make sure that I am getting regular body work because I think that's really important for me. I don't stay functional unless I make sure and I have the whole year scheduled out for making sure that I'm going in and getting that body work done and all those things. Yes, ma'am. Okay, I'll finish up then. My students are running in the background getting stuff, so I'm just giving you, I probably have like 5
4 minutes
to 10 minutes before I gotta go.
Well, let's wrap it up really quickly. Tell us if you got to talk to some newer midwives who were considering becoming preceptors. So they're 3 years, they've done enough births, it's time to send in their forms to NARM, or they're ready to start applying to be preceptors for schools. What do you wish that they knew from your years of experience, and how many students have you taught now? Like,
I have 32 who have become CPMs.
that's amazing. So you've helped transition 32 students into full-fledged practice. And I would just love to say, what are your words of wisdom for those folks that are about to take up the mantle of education?
One, don't do it without having another senior midwife on your beck and call. Have somebody, call me, call you. Have another senior midwife that you can call and say, hey, I need to be able to be mentored through this space, especially if it's the first time you've ever taken a student. It's really helpful to be mentored through that space of learning how to teach somebody. It's really nice to call and go, I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to teach her how to do this. Give me some ideas, because you've never taught it before. It's okay to recognize that you don't know how to teach this, but also don't be afraid of it.
Yeah.
Try it. See what happens. I mean, start with something simple. Just do phase 1, where they're just coming in and observing and assisting and learning how to help out. Just take it easy. Teach them how to do blood pressure. Teach them how to listen to heart rate. Just do simple skills at first. And if that's overwhelming to you, step back and wait another 3 years before you try again. If that's the case, go ahead and get your preceptorship, but only do like the second verifier skills. Like, you can totally sign off on skills, but you're not interested in helping them learn how to be a full-blown supervised midwife. Start with something simple.
Yeah.
But do it
I love
with
that.
another midwife hand in hand. And if you get overwhelmed, stop. Recognize that you need to stop. If it makes you cry to think about calling your student to a birth, you should not be a midwife who's teaching. Please don't.
That's so true. So I'm going to add something to this. My biggest request of new preceptors is have a student handbook and a contract.
Yes.
Make it clear. We did write it. We did write it and design it. We have a 50-page full color student contract and handbook, and it gives all of the like primer, like for new students, like what to expect and what to bring, even for yourself, and when to call your midwife, and what's it all about? What do you expect of them? Have that all written down, and then have an actual written agreement. You don't have to call it a contract, because contract is sort of
write it out.
But you have to write it out. It's an agreement. If this, then that, right? So one of the most important points I want to have in all midwifery student agreements is how you terminate the relationship. Just like any good prenup, just like any good business contract, LLC paperwork, we have to know what we're going to do at the end. And there is going to be an end of the relationship. If it goes really well, the end will be when they've caught all their births and gotten all their signatures and they're actually graduating. So have a clause about graduating. And if they are actually not doing well, how do you end a challenging relationship? Write all that out. And if you don't want to write it out, purchase our template. It's $60. It's on the website, midwiferywisdom.com. And it gives you a framework, at least, for how to have this conversation, because we need to be done with this martyrdom and this like backstabbing and this codependence and this like dysfunctional, toxic relationships. And one of the ways out of that is clarity and communication. So we made it simple to go ahead and do that.
To know how to get out. Because I've been in bad apprenticeships, both as a student and as a midwife. And when it needs to end, you know.
Everyone knows. But then if it's written down, you get in that frustration, you can just write it down and you can go to it and you can say, oh, when we weren't working anymore, I have to give 2 weeks notice. I have to give 2 months notice, whatever you write in a contract. I get to keep this. This goes back to the practice. I'll get these signatures. This is when and how I can ask for these signatures. This is how it will end. So some of the preceptors I work with, they require their new students to go and purchase their own handbook from us so that then they can go through the process with them all individually. Some of them
help students to learn how to ask the right questions. So sometimes if you're new to midwifery, you don't know how cutthroat it can be.
You
And
don't
you're
know.
so sweet and innocent coming in, and you don't know what you're getting into until it's too late.
Yep.
And when
Yep.
it's too late, then you're desperate and you don't know how to do it. So
Yeah.
start off.
So this
looking,
boundary setting
knowing first.
in the beginning
Yeah.
will really help. Well, I'm so grateful we had this time together. I cannot wait to be with you in person. Like, I'm buzzing from this. I
can't
hope
wait to
everyone
see
signs
so
up.
many amazing people that I have followed for so long
Yes.
and thought they were so cool. And I'm just like,
I know.
welcome.
I know. We've got an epic list. If you go onto our Instagram page here, you can see about half of the speakers have been announced so far. We've confirmed the other half. Their videos are coming. So, woo! I just confirmed one that I'm so excited for. Do you know Whitney Pinger?
I do.
I'm so excited to see Whitney Pinger.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. 45 years as a midwife, started the midwifery program at George Washington University and has done home births and all kinds of fun things. So very exciting. And so many places to go. Our website is a huge resource. Check it out, midwiferywisdom.com. We've got courses and downloadable products and chat boards and a jobs board and all kinds of other things to help midwives on their paths. Thanks everyone for tuning in tonight, and thanks for listening if you're catching this on the podcast, and we will see you all on the flip side. Wantina, take good care of yourself. Have a beautiful birth today, tonight, whatever time it is. Stay in touch, my love.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.